Imagine you lived in a quaint, quiet village comprising of about 700 residents. Then imagine the government suddenly announced it planned to house 1,500 North African and Middle Eastern migrants right on your doorstep. Oh shit. That's precisely what could be about to happen to the residents of Linton-on-Ouse, a village in North Yorkshire, England. And suffice to say, the locals aren't too happy about it.
Like Catherine Dryden, who fears that an influx of bored young men is just asking for trouble.
They are going to be bored out of their skulls. There is no infrastructure in this village. We're a very small, tight-knit community. Yes, we will be welcoming them and speak to them, absolutely not a problem, but that is not enough. What are these people going to do?
But wait, they keep telling me diversity's a strength. What could these bigots possibly have against their village suddenly doubling in size, swelled by ranks of new doctors, lawyers, culturally enriched by exotic, tasty new foreign food restaurants? Who would have a problem with that?
A group of schoolgirls videoed as they were propositioned by a couple of asylum seekers.
You know we're 15.
Yeah, how old are you?
21.
You know we're 15.
Who?
Us. Oh my, we're 15. She likes me. You're 21 and you're asking for us snaps. We're 15.
I'm getting the word nonce.
Oh. Don't think that's the kind of cultural enrichment they were anticipating. Look at the size of this village. Linton-on-Ouse has one shop on the main road, just 4 buses run per day. Locals already wait weeks to get a doctor's appointment. Much like England, Linton-on-Ouse is full. There's just no capacity to take in all these people. Yet they plan to bus in migrants who will outnumber the existing residents by nearly 3 to 1. Pure insanity. And all cooked up without any proper consultation with the local community and just dumped on them.
It's supposed to be a democratic society, but nobody's asked us. And now, apparently, they're arriving next week.
And this week's announcement of a successful legal challenge will only put the plan on a temporary hold. Residents have been told by the government they'll get just 7 days' notice before any migrants arrive. And this isn't just a one-off case. It's the plan for the entire country. Under the Asylum Seeker Dispersal Programme, the government has ordered councils to make more council housing stock and private rented accommodation available to house refugees. This at the same time that Britain faces a severe housing shortage crisis, with skyrocketing prices and limited supply making home ownership unaffordable for many, with endless sprawling housing estates being built on the edge of villages and greenbelt land that's supposed to be protected, placing further onerous strain on already creaking NHS infrastructure and other public services. Meanwhile, at a cost to the taxpayer of 5 million quid a day, the government is paying for these migrants to be housed in 30,000 hotel rooms a day.
On the seafront in Eastbourne, this hotel would normally be home to some of the many tourists who visit this East Sussex resort. But these guests are not holidaymakers. They're asylum seekers, some of the tens of thousands who are currently placed in hotel accommodation.
And the authorities seem alarmingly paranoid about news reporters speaking to any of them.
As we filmed, this Home Office minder filmed us. Another tried to persuade the guests to go back inside. And as I tried to speak to some of them, I was told I couldn't.
They are not allowed to speak. They are guests.
Well, they are allowed to speak.
No, they can't give any statement to you.
That's official. You're telling us on behalf of the Home Office that these people are not allowed to speak to us. Is that what you're telling us?
Meanwhile, our own homeless population is left to shiver on the streets. The majority of people sleeping rough in England are from the UK. No free hotel rooms for them. They'd be better treated if they hopped on a dinghy from France and came back pretending to be asylum seekers. Most of these migrant hotels are now completely closed to the public because whenever they try to maintain parts of the hotels for use by tourists and other parts for use by migrants, like in Scarborough, let's just say the behaviour of the migrants makes the hotel's TripAdvisor and Booking.com review scores plummet faster than a skydiver who forgot his parachute. One Sudanese migrant at a hotel in Glasgow expressed his gratitude by going on a stabbing spree. And no, that doesn't mean all migrants are out to do harm, and I don't blame them for wanting to come here, but it only takes a small percentage of a large number to cause significant trouble.
The problem is that 90% of those that cross the English Channel are male. They are coming from cultures, in most cases, in which women aren't even treated as second-class citizens. And that leads to fear and terror, whether people are put in Linton-on-Ouse, on Eastbourne Seafront, in Windsor, or wherever it is.
And how did we end up here? Because under a conservative government that promised to drastically reduce both legal and illegal immigration, our border has more holes in it than a giant block of Swiss cheese. Last year alone, nearly 30,000 refugees arrived on boats on UK shores, where they were immediately given a complimentary taxi service and free accommodation by our border force. And those numbers are only set to increase. Hundreds more arrived in the past week. Nigel Farage warns 100,000 could arrive by the end of this year. The government has vowed to send a small number to Rwanda. And even if they get past all the lefty legal challenges preventing them from doing so, that's a drop in the ocean. There have been 4,850 landings since the Rwanda plan was announced back in April. 200 more boat migrants arrived on Tuesday alone because there's no deterrent, only incentive, both for illegal economic migrants and the people smugglers making a killing out of the entire racket. Many of them just rock up on the beach and run to the nearest town or village. Nobody has a clue who they even are. Instead of escorting the boats back to France, where they came from, we treat their occupants like celebrities arriving at the Ritz. And these aren't Ukrainian housewives. They're almost entirely young men from countries like Iran, Iraq and Afghanistan that aren't even at war. They're economic migrants. The first 60 asylum seekers set to arrive in Linton-on-Ouse were all young men. Every single one of them. What happens to Western cities subsumed by unintegrated illegal immigrants? Well, you get scenes like the chaos that occurred before the Champions League final last weekend. Hosted at the Stade de France in Paris, located in Saint-Denis, an area that is home to a whopping 400,000 illegal migrants. Videos and eyewitness reports speak to hordes of migrant youths assaulting and robbing visiting supporters. And who did the authorities and the media blame? The same supporters who were the victims of the attacks. Look at Germany, which took in over 1 million refugees from 2015 onwards. New crime statistics released by the government show that gang rapes have soared by 120% in the past 3 years. Germany's foreign population stands at around 13%, but the proportion of non-German suspects recorded in gang rape cases is 47%. Ukrainian female refugees in Sweden have been told to dress modestly so as not to antagonize Muslim men. Ukrainian female refugees at an asylum center in Örebro complained about being subjected to home invasions and attempted sexual attacks. Some of them refused to even go to Sweden in the first place, fearing for their safety and preferring to remain in an actual war zone. And lest we forget our own nightmare experiences in the UK, where a refugee from Libya, Salman Abedi, rescued by our own Royal Navy, went on to blow himself up at a children's pop concert at the Manchester Arena. Abedi's suspicious behaviour was noted by eyewitnesses multiple times right up until the bombing. But security guards didn't report it up the chain because they feared being called racist. Matteo Salvini has warned that global food shortages could cause a further 20 million African migrants to enter Europe. And judging by the actions of major European countries over the past 7 years, it's difficult to see any other outcome than them rolling out the red carpet once again. A 2019 peer-reviewed study by academics at the University of Copenhagen found that ethnic diversity has a negative impact on communities. The former head of French intelligence recently said, quote, "All multicultural societies are doomed." Belgian leftist leader Conor Rousseau recently acknowledged that multiculturalism has failed. The left-wing Prime Minister of Sweden recently admitted that integration has failed. Angela Merkel admitted over a decade ago that it had utterly failed. It always fails, yet it keeps being imposed on Western countries, with us having no say whatsoever in the matter.
Stop treating us like imbeciles. Yeah.
We're supposed to be feeling all patriotic this week for the Queen's 70th Jubilee celebrations. Oh, finally, an establishment-endorsed acceptable way to display love for our country. But what's a country without borders? It's absolutely crucial for you to help me fight the war on free speech by supporting me via Subscribe Star, link in description, and also signing up for my free newsletter at summit.news/newsletter.